Merry Christmas, everybody! This is Kodak here, and today, of course, for Christmas, we are going to be talking about Bakugan Battle Planet. Now, unfortunately, I was not able to pull off the Christmas miracle I was hoping to have, and that would be getting some actual product for us to take a look at and enjoy, which officially comes out on January 1st, but as I predicted, did naturally leak right before Christmas to create huge amounts of demand. But, oh well, I guess we're just gonna have to review the one thing I can get my hands on, the pilot episode for the Bakugan Battle Planet cartoon. Now, it's been 8 years since we've had a Bakugan cartoon in the United States, so if a few things are changed here and there, you know, I generally don't have a problem with that kind of thing. So, let's take a look at the first episode, Origin of Species Part 1 and Part 2. Our series begins with Second Impact, and everybody dies. The end. Huh. That was short. Well, at least it was short. Good night, everybody. Oh, I'm kidding. Actually, the episode starts with our hero, Dan Kuso, being challenged by Magnus, the Kylo Ren to Masquerade's Darth Vader. They start a fight, which apparently shoves people out of the battle dome. I feel sorry for anybody who was inside a building when this happened. But first, we flash back to how it all started. Second Impact, or as it gets called in this series,
the Great Collision.
Wait, that's supposed to be the site of this huge earth-shattering explosion? Yamcha left a bigger crater than that. So here we meet our heroes, who, 12 years after the Great Collision, have decided to come and investigate. We of course have Dan, and along with him we have Leah, who kinda looks like a cross between Runo and Julie from the original series, and Winston, who I guess is supposed to be Marucho if he was taller. Am I forgetting somebody? Oh right, Iggy, or as he's called in this case, Lightning. I don't know, there's just something about having a Boston Terrier as a member of your team that seems to be a thing right now. During their investigation, Dan reveals why he is so fascinated by the Great Collision.
I was born on that day. On the very same day as the Great Collision.
Okay, writers, we get it. You're huge fans of Neon Genesis Evangelion. What are you gonna do next? Have an Evangelion-themed Bakugan or something? Oh, jeez. Sorry I asked.
We're the coolest team around. That's us, the Awesome Ones.
The Awesome Ones!
We, the Awesome Ones, are gonna blow the lid off the Great Collision. That's right, we're going to prove to everyone that nothing actually happened.
Wow, Bakugan, that was the death of comedy right there. Way to go. Fortunately, that line of thinking is cut off by the reveal that this was actually to give Dan a bit of a surprise birthday party. But their celebration is cut off by the sudden onset of Third Impact, and they die. Actually, no. What happens is the world around them is suddenly showered with... Dang it, Light Hope, do you mind? I'm trying to do a review here.
Forgive me. My human protocol is many years out of date.
Moving on.
Bakugan? Hey, Dan! By your feet!
Oh no, the Bakugan toys have a slime gimmick. Reboot officially ruined. So Dan reaches for the Bakugan, which causes a contact high?
You okay? Oh snap! Not good! It's so cool! What is it?
But soon Dan drops his trippy marble and he emerges as Dragonoid. This version of Dragonoid is a bit of an interesting design. It's very complex, likely why it's rendered in CG rather than traditional animation, with a lot of blacks and grays rather than the traditional Pyrus oranges and yellows. They did manage to give him those big eyes, however, and those were important to giving him a livelier, relatable look like they did in the original. It's a decent 8 out of 10. Now, if only his Bakugan form looked better. So from here, the Awesome Ones, yeah, they're still calling themselves that, start shooting videos about the Bakugan they found, which turns out to be a pretty important thing, as it turns out that Bakugan have appeared all over the world. One of the things that they do say is that adults cannot use Bakugan, which we will soon learn is a bold-faced lie. And I actually really like this angle. It's a really nice callback to what the Battle Brawlers were in the original Bakugan, sort of this online community authority on the Bakugan world. Granted, it's a little bit different, as in the original, Julie and Alice didn't live in the same country as Dan and everybody else, but it's still nice to see this. Our villain Magnus, on the other hand...
It's Magnus, trust me. It's a name you're never going to forget.
Yeah, popping back into the present once again for the second episode, we see Magnus unleashing his Bakugan Nilius, which I now know I pronounced correctly the first time. No Vilantor situation this time around. And Magnus actually starts winning, mentioning how he learned all of Dan's tricks by watching his videos online. Huh, that's actually kind of clever, not to mention something that happens in real life.
Suck on that, Stabby! Turns out that having a legendary YouTube channel with helpful advice, exciting gameplay, and good editing was a suboptimal play!
But here's where we have my first real problem with Magnus. Magnus, Shatsi, let me tell you the first rule about being a good Bakugan villain. It's a little thing called subtlety. Masquerade from the first series, he too followed the Battle Brawlers and sort of let them be for a while, letting them be the face of Bakugan while he played the Mephistopheles, finding well-intentioned people who were desperate enough to do bad things to accomplish them. Subtlety. The Vexo suppressing information to maintain control of New Vestroia and paint Dan and his friends as terrorists? Subtlety. The Gundalians secretly giving Marucho the tech he needed to complete Bakugan Interspace so they could use it as an army recruitment tool? Subtlety. Magmel messing with Dan's mind and staging events to convince everyone that Dan himself is the source of all of the chaos in Bakugan Interspace, including Dan himself? Subtlety. Magnus, rather than lure Dan to a secluded location where nobody else can see or hear them and testing him in a fight while keeping his motives a secret, the way any other Bakugan villain would have done, instead he walks straight up to Dan in broad daylight, announces his intentions in front of tons of people, and fights him on the city streets while telling Dan exactly how he plans to win.
You are made of stupid.
And then Dan's friends show up and everybody starts throwing around a bunch of pointless numbers as the Bakugan fight each other. Though there is an interesting mechanic in the show where in order to activate their ability cards, they have to find and toss some matching Bakucore hexes somewhere in the ground to their Bakugan. It certainly adds a sense of chaos to the fights, but we'll see how that gets used in the future. And who knows, the attack names and stuff might have some sort of significance that you really have to understand the game in order to appreciate, kind of like what they did in Wicross, but who knows. So after Magnus gets magnanimously defeated, the other villains also make themselves known, and all of them are incredibly flat, lazy archetypes. We got our requisite Perona knockoff, we got, hey, they convinced Shadow Prove to come out of retirement, how you been, man? And finally an older guy with a deep voice, stubble, and balding hair. Okay, remember how they said adults cannot use Bakugan? Well, they just shot themselves in the foot, cause that ain't a kid, that's a grown-ass man!
What? What do you mean? We beat you, fair and square!
You think you won?
Yes, actually, your Bakugan are clearly exhausted. So our episode ends with the villains fleeing in disgrace, Dan and friends ending their podcast, and our first introduction to this universe's Shun Kazami. And of course we have to finish things off with the true villain giving a big smirk, because that's how all pilots end these days, right? So that is the first episode of Bakugan Battle Planet, and what do I think? Well... despite their dumb name, I do like the awesome ones. There's a clear rapport, and it is nice to see the formation of this iteration of the Battle Brawlers rather than starting in media res like they did in the original. The Bakugan designs are all really neat, and the battle system has some interesting chaotic potential. On the downside, though, I have never seen such aggressively uninteresting villains in my entire life. In just a few seconds, we already know the one note that forms their entire personality, and in this pilot episode have basically just unzipped their flies in front of the entire world.
Viewers, you're recording me?
Made of stupid! That was one of the big things that helped the original Bakugan stand out, was the quality of its villains. Masquerade is a consistent fan favorite, working excellently in the shadows and outmaneuvering Dan and his friends at every turn as the true breadth of his wider conspiracy begins to come out, taking basically the entire series to finally be cornered. These villains, they have no character, no sense of threat, no subtlety, nothing. I am not at all intrigued by them, and I hope the real villains who actually have some idea of what they're doing come along soon. So, yeah, that's my thoughts on the Bakugan Battle Planet pilot. The heroes are a great start, but the villains are a huge letdown. Well, we'll have to see how things go going forward, and hopefully I'll be able to get my hands on some of the toys with that official release date of New Year's Day. So, until that happens, this is Kodak signing.
Not so fast, Kodak! Bakugan is back, and that means I'm back too! Time for me to unleash my revenge!
Oh, no, you don't, Douglas. Not as long as I have a couch to review on, you will never win. I'm gonna have to handle this, you guys. Tune in next time where we're gonna try to get the toys going. Until next time, this is Kodak signing off for the honor of Christmas!